Ken, when I look at these two books, a certain quotation from Shakespeare comes to mind. Well, it's accredited to Shakespeare, and it said, "Some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them." And the question comes, where was Ken all this time? I'll pose the question to you again sometime later. But welcome to Oral Tradition and another adventure in Guyanese literature. And we look at the Guyana Prize and other issues relating to the prize. Also, now let's welcome a remarkable writer, Ken Puddicombe, who has just created history in the Guyana Prize for being the first person to win first place in 3 categories of the prize. Fiction, first place in fiction, first place non-fiction, and first place for playwright drama.
Drama.
Congratulations, Ken.
Thanks very much, Petamber.
So, Ken, the question now, where was Ken all this time? I mean, going back to the quote I opened with, some are born great, some achieve greatness, some have greatness thrust upon them. Where was Ken all this time?
Ken has always been around. You could possibly say I'm a late bloomer, except I've always written. I've always been a writer. I built my career in accounting, of course, CPA, retired as a CPA. I was a controller for several companies, but always wrote, always submitted my stuff. And maybe my writing has reached a certain elegance now, a certain quality.
Wow!
That it's being recognized. So yes, I've always been around Petamber.
Yeah. Been around where? You're born in Guyana.
Yes.
And then you move. Tell us about your formative days here.
I worked with the Inland Revenue Department.
Let's go back a bit more. School days and reading and things like that.
Primary school, I attended Carmel Roman Catholic down in Charlestown. And subsequent to that, I attended Indian Education Trust College. Graduated and taught for about a year or so, and then entered the civil service, Inland Revenue Department. It's where I met my wife, actually.
Yeah.
And then left in 1970 to pursue more goals. But I've always been writing, always. Even back then, I kept journals.
Yeah. So then we can turn to the journals now.
Yes.
Well, I look at this year's winner, pages from a notebook, slices of life along the road to writing. And I pick up this other one, and I said, you know what? The notebook seems to have been part of this, down Boulevard, or Independence Boulevard. Like you were keeping notes for this, but this came after that. Talk about these two. Both are winners. This was the first place winner in the fiction, and now first place winner in the non-fiction.
And you're right. The Down Independence Boulevard, the short stories, of course, are a collection of fictionalized true events from my journals. I created a fictionalized set of short stories. But I've always had the journals in mind. And they're based on true events, most of them.
This book, you know, I mean, there's some humorous terms inside. And I like to catch you reading some of those twists and turns here as you go along your journey.
Any particular one?
No, no, you choose one that give us the best idea of writing or your notebook so we can get into, perhaps we can get into this and your other books later.
Okay. I can read some excerpts. Maybe it might
Yeah,
be
yeah.
might be the best thing to do. I read A Lover's Tryst at the reading, so I'm not going to go into that one. But that's also based on true stories. It's 1991. It's probably my first trip back to Guyana. True story. There is.
I think there's a similar story here.
Yes, yes, you're right. The
Yes.
fictionalized version.
Yes.
Yep,
Yeah.
you're right. Absolutely. The taxi driver is based on my cousin, who was my driver during that period in 1991. And Zipperhead and Harpy is based on an actual encounter in the at Pearson Airport in Toronto.
Mm.
There is an event in the Bahamas, 1990. There are times, there's one making up time.
I like the one there. There's one that the soldier or the ex-soldier that he keeps joining the queue. He
Yes,
keeps
that's set in England. Yes.
Yeah. But you choose something. Yeah, and go
Um,
right ahead.
There's a man called Kentish, which is set in Jamaica in 1997. And there's a lot of satire, meant to be satire in these stories.
Yeah, because
because-
you ask a lot of questions like, what creative nonfiction in the field, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. There's A Stranger in My House, which is true life story based on my mom, who immigrated to Canada also. So, how about if I choose, let's see, there's a conversation.
The conversation is lengthy, but go
Okay,
on. The
well, let me choose a
or
short
even
one then.
the lover's twist will be fine. It doesn't matter.
All right.
I know writers will do the pieces, that particular piece over and over wherever they go because it comes easy to them.
Okay. Let me read some from A Lover's Tryst then,
Yeah.
and I'll probably skip and go to the end. And this is set in Georgetown, 1991. I was on my way to the airport to catch my plane, passing through Kitty, a suburb at the east end of Georgetown, when Rex, my taxi driver, pulled over to the side of the road. The entire trip had been like that. One long journey, punctuated by frequent stops to top up a leaking radiator. Rex pulled out the now familiar yellow plastic pail from the trunk and set off to fill it with water. But when I saw him duck into the off-track bedding shop across the street, I knew that it would be some time before I saw him again. I didn't mind the wait. I was in no hurry. I had another 12 hours before the flight, and my body clock had long since adjusted to the easy rhythm of the lifestyle in Guyana.
Okay.
I looked around and couldn't help thinking that while I would be back in Toronto the next day, life in Guyana would go on as usual. The same as it had over the
Oh,
last
boy.
2 decades while I was away. The fat pig, his enormous pink bulk taking over half the width of the trench across from me, would still be siphoning his way through the muck. The women standing in the parapet gossiping would find something else to talk about. The men sitting around the table in the shop bridge playing dominoes would return to finish the bottle of rum or start another.
Daru bhai.
Suddenly, I noticed people running up the street, past the car. It was as if they had just received a news flash that looters were emptying stores in the shopping area and they wanted part of the action. I thought the country had long since moved on from the riotous era of the early 60s, when Georgetown had suffered at the hands of looters and arsonists. I was now alarmed. The 60s, of course, is an era we lived through. Came out of it safely. I turned to see what they were doing, where they were going. They were crowded around the woman outside the shack, several house lots from where the car was parked, and they all seemed to be caught up in excitement as she repeatedly slammed a piece of lumber on the door of the shack. The piece of lumber was so large and unwieldy that she had to take hold of it several times to avoid it slipping from her grasp. But what really stood out was a red blotch at the back of her head. She was bleeding from a wound on the right side, the blood trickling down her short, curly black hair, settling in her shoulder, but she took no notice of it. "Come out!" the woman shouted as she hit the door repeatedly. "Think you can bust my head and get away with it, no?" Alas, after several bangs, the door gave way. A man emerged from the shack. She went up to him, pushed him with a sharp slap to his chest, and then started to dance around him, sparring like a boxer in a prize fight. "Give you one more," someone in the crowd shouted. The woman kept him at bay while she took shots at his face. Meanwhile, the crowd milled around, laughing and clapping. "Don't let you take advantage of you," a woman shouted. "Stand up for your rights," another woman said. A man in the crowd had his own input. He said, "You a man or a mouse? You're going to take beating from a woman?" And I thought the squabble would work itself out. I'm going to skip and go to the crowd clapped and cheered as the cop went on his way, and then Toothless went up to the woman, held her around the waist and steered her towards the shack. The crowd applauded as Toothless opened the door of the shack for the woman. It was as if the crowd had just witnessed yet another episode in an ongoing drama. And the last thing I saw before Toothless and the woman disappeared was the great smack he placed on her lips and a wide smile of pleasure he brought to her face. Rex, my driver, finally returned to the car with his pail of water. He said, "What was all the commotion about?" I sighed and I said, "Nothing, just another lover's tryst."
Yep, another day in the life of Kitty.